We're moving to the migrant crisis now, and at least 250 Cameroonians have returned home this week alone. Well, this comes just days after media reports of migrants being traded as slaves in Libya sent shockwaves through sub-Saharan Africa and angered the world. The migrant return was organized by the International Office of Migration in a deal facilitated by the European Union.
Around 250 Cameroonians returned from Libya on November 23rd, just days after a report by American news network CNN on the slave trade in migrants in Libya sent shockwaves through sub-Saharan Africa and angered governments. The report showed footage of what it said was an auction of men offered to Libyan buyers as farmhands and sold for $400, a chilling echo of the trans-Saharan slave trade of centuries past. Many of those who returned to Cameroon's capital Yaoundé included men, women and children who, like many migrants, end up in Libya as they attempt the voyage across the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean Sea to European shores.
Libya is a country at war, despite the semblance of peace. A black person is seen as merchandise. He is sold like chicken. Migrants on their way to Libya are kidnapped. They are kidnapped when they are walking and sold for as little as 300 Libyan dinars. They ask the families of those they kidnapped to pay for their release. I was also a victim.
The migrant return was organized by the International Office of Migration, with each migrant given $117 to help them resettle in their villages. Reports of abuse against African migrants also dominated a two-day Africa-Europe summit as European leaders met their African Union counterparts in Ivory Coast this week. On Thursday, the last day of the summit, officials said the EU, the UN and the AU agreed to an emergency plan to dismantle people smuggling networks and repatriate stranded migrants in an effort to ease human rights disaster in Libya. Libya splintered along political, ideological and tribal lines during and after a 2011 NATO-backed uprising that unseated former leader Muammar Gaddafi. 6 years after Gaddafi's fall, Libya is still a lawless state where armed groups compete for land and resources and people smuggling networks operate with impunity. Libya's government, which has promised to investigate reports of slave auctions, agreed to grant UN agencies access to migrant camps in areas under its control. Some 600,000 migrants have reached Italy by sea from North Africa since 2014, most leaving from Libya's western coast. More than 12,000 have died trying.
And in Zambia, the fear of a humanitarian crisis hits the country after more than 6,000 refugees fleeing turmoil in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo entered its territory. Thousands of people have been killed and more than 1 million forced to flee their homes in the DRC's Eastern Kasai region since the start of an insurrection nearly a year ago by the Kamoina Nsapu militia, which is demanding the withdrawal of military forces from the area.
Thousands of people have been killed and more than 1 million forced to flee their homes in the DRC's Eastern Kasai region since the start of an insurrection nearly a year ago by the Kamoina Nsapu militia, which is demanding the withdrawal of military forces from the area. By November 1, more than 6,000 refugees were registered at the Kanani Transit Center, 100 kilometers from the border with Congo and 1,400 kilometers from the capital city, Lusaka. Some of the new arrivals lingered close to the border to wait for other family members of theirs to cross over. Local reports citing arrivals through other entry points say there are more than 8,000 Congolese refugees in Zambia, with the number expected to reach 10,000 in weeks. The United Nations Refugee Agency says Zambia currently hosts over 60,000 refugees and other asylum seekers, mostly from Angola, the DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia and Uganda. Kanani Transit Center has been divided into two locations, Kanani 1 and Kanani 2, which is set up to decongest Kanani 1 and receive new arrivals. The UN Refugee Agency has managed so far to provide basic essentials and to settle the refugees in protected areas where they have access to basics like food, shelter and medical health.
Water is being provided, health facilities have been erected at the transit center with the help of the Ministry of Health, and we have partners like UNICEF We also have partners like World Vision that are on the ground trying to ensure that all the necessary requirements to prevent a crisis are being carried out.
Aid agencies say 60% of refugees arriving in Zambia are children, many showing signs of malnutrition, malaria, respiratory problems, dysentery and skin infections. 39-year-old Kaimba Kazili lives in Kanani Transit Center with her husband and children. She says she's been fleeing war in eastern Congo since she was a young girl, giving birth to her children in different camps within Congo as the family moved. Now in Zambia, she is worried because they don't have access to enough food and ponders over her children's future without access to education.
Our children are supposed to be in school from September until December when they close. But we are worried that they are being left behind and many may stray. We are here, but many children have gone missing. We do not even know where they are. Missing out on an education is a whole new problem, and it just destroys the minds of the youth.
Zambian President Edgar Lungu and Angola's new President João Lourenço have raised concerns over the ongoing instability in Congo that has sent thousands across borders into both countries.
The indications are that this situation could easily degenerate into a humanitarian crisis. So you'll be urging the humanitarian actors, the UN agencies and all aid agencies concerned with the welfare of refugees to do more to forestall the situation from degenerating into a humanitarian crisis.
The insurgency in the east poses the most serious threat yet to the rule of Congo's President Joseph Kabila, whose refusal to step down at the end of his constitutional mandate last December was followed by a wave of killings and lawlessness across the vast Central African nation.
Coming up after the break, the Nigerian pyrography artist uses burn marks to create artworks. So join us again.